It's been on my mind a lot lately about how I need to get onto a better schedule of uploading videos here more frequently. I've got several projects kind of going, different playlists that I'm working on. I've got the 1 minute Stormlight Archive chapter recap videos. I got my Stephen King playlist and all this stuff. But there's one playlist that has been in the back of my mind. I think about it every couple of months, and then I just put it off and I forget about it for a while. But a while back, I started the Michael Crichton read along, and I was following along with the channel Mike's Book Reviews. His channel is really blown up; it's gotten really big. So, if you haven't seen Mike's Book Reviews, if you like fantasy, sci-fi, horror, anything like that, I would highly recommend you check him out. It's a good channel. Anyway, he was doing what he called the Michael Crichton reread because he had already read pretty much all of these. I called it the Michael Crichton read along. And actually, he kind of stopped doing it. He stopped being consistent, and then I think he kind of stopped altogether a while back, like halfway through. It's reading 18 Michael Crichton books. It's all the ones that he published under his own name, and it's one a month, and it was like a year and a half long. And I did it. I read all of them, but I only made 17 videos. I never made a video for Dragon Teeth. And thinking back, I'm trying to remember why. It was the summer of 2022, and it was right when I quit teaching. I did not renew my contract. I resigned, and so I had to leave my laptop at the school. And my laptop, that was the only laptop I had, and so I just didn't have any equipment to use to record a video. And I think that's why I never ended up recording this one. But I did read it that month, and it's just been in the back of my mind for a long time, thinking about that. So I finally kicked myself in the butt and turned and came here to record this video, and I have not reread this. I was thinking this could be a sort of fun little experiment for myself and for anybody who's interested. That I'm just gonna try to talk about this book without having I haven't read it in a year and a half, but I do remember I liked it, and so yeah, let's talk about Dragon Teeth, and I'm just gonna kind of ramble and hopefully try to edit this, cobble it together into something cohesive and coherent. I'm going to put this down because I just keep looking at it instead of the camera. Dragon Teeth, it's about a guy... Well, actually, sorry, let me get it back. The inside flap, I did read this just now. It's about a kid named William Johnson. He's a college student in Philadelphia. He's sort of rich and spoiled, thinks he's all that. And he makes a wager, a bet with his sort of arch rival at the school. And this is taking place in the Wild West. Well, in the days of the Wild West. It's 1876. And he makes this wager, something about going west, that he was going to take his summer vacation to Europe or something like that. And the other kid's saying something about if you were a real man, you'd go to the West because that's where it's the rough and tumble, all this wild stuff happening out there. And he's like, oh, the West isn't that cool. And the other guy's like, you're too scared. I think he basically dares him saying he's too scared. And he bets $1,000 that he wouldn't go west. So the kid takes the bet. He's able to sort of trick his way into this excursion that's going to the West over the summer. This professor of paleontology is leading a group of students. But in order to get into the group, he poses as a photographer. The professor is like, the only thing we're missing is a photographer. We have everything else set up. So the guy claims to be a photographer, and then he has to go and learn how to take photographs. And of course, this is 1870s. Photographs were sort of a new art, and so is much more involved than just snapping a picture with a camera, right? Had to. I don't know the terminology, but all these plates, all these slides and stuff, and you have to douse them with a certain chemical, and you have to do this. It's this big process, so he has to learn how to do that really quickly in order to get onto this excursion. Anyway, all that's just kind of basic setup. He goes with this group of students and basically just gets into a lot of trouble and runs into some crazy situations. And what's really fun about the book is it's historical fiction. So the professor is this guy, Othniel Charles Marsh, who was a real-life paleontologist. And his sort of arch rival, his nemesis, was a guy named Edward Drinker Cope, who was another paleontologist. And this is a time period known as the Bone Wars, because these two guys This was when dinosaur fossils were kind of first becoming, like, I guess, sort of mainstream, or they had been discovered just a little bit before this time period, and now it was like people were going out and finding them and heading these huge excursions, and really, it was like the birth of paleontology, I guess you could say, if I remember right. And you can Google the Bone Wars; it's pretty interesting stuff. Which brings me to one sort of, I guess, concern. I don't want to call it a complaint, but this book is a great example of how, when you're reading Michael Crichton, it's hard to tell what's true and what's fiction, what's fact and what's fiction. And so he says in an afterword that, like, yes, these were real people and most of the events are true, but like William Johnson, the main character, he's completely fictitious. And a lot of the specific events about this summer that he spends in the West are all just kind of fictitious. And a lot of these events between Marsh and Cope, was it Cope? Yeah. That they their rivalry lasted like 10 years, and it's all condensed into one summer in this book. So anyway, it's just kind of fun. They're like really wild characters. There's a few interesting things. Like there's a part where the kid meets Robert Louis Stevenson, the author, on the train to the West. I think I found it interesting because it mentions Brigham Young, the Mormon prophet. So there's like just interesting like historical artifacts sprinkled throughout. But I was expecting the story to be somewhat straightforward. You go out and they're going to find dinosaur bones and probably get in a fight with some Native Americans and maybe, you know, run from a herd of buffalo or something like that. But it takes some pretty wild twists. He gets separated from the group. I don't want to spoil anything, really. He gets separated from the group. He ends up spending a lot more time out in the West than he had previously planned. He gets stuck in this town that's like full of bandits. It's a pretty infamous town called Deadwood. He ends up spending like a long time there, just sort of stranded. And I guess I can't say too much else, but I would recommend it. It's a good book. It's fun. It's a lot of action. It's pretty fast paced. Apparently, it's a little unclear. I think Crichton wrote it earlier in his career and never published it. It was sort of found with his stuff after he died. It was only published in 2017, I believe, and yeah, he died in 2012. I don't know. I'm probably getting all my facts wrong because, like I said, I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants here. Long story short, it was fun. It was worth the read. It has nothing to do with Jurassic Park. Sometimes this is like marketed as like an early pre-Jurassic Park, almost like a prequel to Jurassic Park. It's definitely not. It has nothing other than being about dinosaurs, has nothing to do with Jurassic Park. People like to claim that this is like an early draft of Jurassic Park. That's completely absurd. It's definitely not. Fun book. It's got a lot of action. So yeah, in conclusion, it's a fun book. I recommend it. It does feel maybe a little bit underdeveloped. I got the same vibes as like with Pirate Latitudes, a little bit of the same vibes. Like he wrote it and maybe he was planning on doing another pass through to just like polish it up a little bit. It feels like where Pirate Latitudes felt a little unpolished, this one just feels a little undeveloped. Like there's certain characters that are just kind of shallow, you know, they're not memorable. Like the whole group of all the students that are in the crew with this kid and his professor. I don't know. It's not like bad. It just feels like there's maybe a little something missing here. Maybe this was supposed to be a little bit more developed, or maybe not. Maybe this is exactly how he wanted it to be. Like I said, it's not a bad book. It is a lot of fun. It's very, very fast paced. It's very, very quick read, and so yeah, check it out if it sounds fun to you. It's not sci-fi at all. You know, he's really kind of known for like sci-fi thriller type thing. It's really not like that at all. It's almost like Eaters of the Dead. You know, it's more a historical fiction, action. It's more like a Western, really, literally. And so, yeah, I think that's all I have to say. And hey, I am finally done with the Michael Crichton read-along. It only took me a year and a half longer than planned. And I'm trying to not set unrealistic expectations for myself. I used to think, I'm going to record a video every day, and then I don't do a video for a day or two, and I get discouraged and I spiral. And so I'm not going to do that to myself this year. I am just, but I am going to make an effort to do more videos. So stay tuned if you want to see more videos about like Stephen King and Stormlight Archive. And I've got a few other fun ideas sort of boiling on the back plate that hopefully will be coming out soonish. So we'll see.